directly through this firing position.
Anti-tank gun.
The Siegfried Line, or West Wall, was Germany's fortified line facing France, opposite the Maginot Line and the Belgian forts. Its origin and construction is generally misrepresented by modern history. In fact, any cursory look for the history of the West Wall is mostly incorrect. There's not even a consensus of the numbers of bunkers constructed, nor has its strategic importance been accurately remembered by history. And the post-war deliberately destruction of the bunkers and forts by the German government has not helped this much. So I thought it was important for military history to begin to broach the West Wall, to begin to establish what it actually was. From the end of World War I, it was clear to everybody that a future conflict was eventually going to have to be fought. And according to the Treaty of Versailles, Germany was now not allowed any troops within 50 kilometers of the border facing Belgium or France. They, in turn, began construction of their own forts facing Germany, so inevitably, Germany would have to do the same. And this planning began very early on after World War I ended. Hitler's coming to power would eventually see a major construction project, but the military had begun the planning long before that. In 1925, Strassmann, the German foreign minister, began talks about construction of military lines and forts. And from the 1927 Paris Accords, Germany was now allowed to construct defensive forts again. And this is where the East Wall facing Poland began. Also, the plans for the bunkers and forts facing France began its planning at this stage. But soon the global depression made construction impossible, simply out of the lack of money. However, in 1933, when the National Socialists and Hitler came to power, with a renewed focus on defense, military preparedness, and rearmament, the West Wall construction took a new turn. It was clear in the early 1930s that Germany was not strong enough to ward off any attack by the Allies, or especially from France. This is where the early years of masterful diplomacy kept the balance of peace intact. During these years, especially a frantic rearmament process took place, while Hitler was wrangling himself diplomatically into a position for a future annexation of Austria and an expansion eastwards. These were tense times. He knew the German military was not near ready for any kind of a fight with any of the Allies, as he was expanding the German military, but is only just on its way when Hitler officially took the chance and announced his withdrawal from the Treaty of Versailles, with its military restrictions on Germany. The Allies did nothing, and he took note. But still, the French threat existed. In 1935, the first special missions into the demilitarized territories began by German engineers, such as in Saarland, beginning to map out the locations and plans for constructions. These were prepared in detail, so when Hitler claimed these territories again in 1936, all was ready for the implementation and construction could begin. Initially, the construction started with the Taubestellung, bunkers built by Frankfurt, mainly bunkers of the type C and D, and a few larger B1 works, with half cloches and troop shelters. The Hindenburg Line, consisting of light shelters, was constructed between Siegen and Wesel. By the River Main, by Frankfurt, Neckar River, and parts of the Enns River by Heidelberg, bunkers were built, leading to Baden-Württemberg. Both Hitler and the General Staff wanted a continuous line of heavy bunkers and defenses in depth. He especially wanted the General Staff to construct defenses to protect the industrial region of the Rhineland, codenaming these projects the Limes program, incorporating full use of the terrain features for protection and control of access routes, as you will see in the next episodes. The initial timeline for completion was set to 1937, for the defenses was to be complete by 1948. This was later pushed to completion expected in 1952, taking a back seat to the production of tanks and battleships. In 1938, just over 600 bunkers had been completed, built by Army pioneers and engineers. Hitler visited the West Wall construction on 30 June 1938, and he was not happy about the speed of construction, nor was he happy with the layouts or individual designs, citing the heavy B-works armed mainly with machine guns, with their huge tunnels might just trap the garrisons inside if the entrances were hit and destroyed. Thus he personally took charge of the construction and designs. He took the experience from the engineers and handed the construction program to Fritz Todt in order to speed up the construction, which he did. However, the similar construction designs of the east wall of the fighting forts, connected by many kilometers of tunnels, continued as originally envisaged. However, these were also placed on relatively flat areas, as opposed to the hilly terrain of the West Wall, where tunnel connections were far more complicated to construct. However, the East Wall construction was slowed down in favor of reallocating more resources to speeding up that of the West. And it was entirely envisaged that Hitler's gamble for the Sudetenland and later Czechoslovakia, it would spur some military action from the French. Although the German military was not near ready for this at the time, it was a gamble. From the spring of 1938 to October 1938, evacuation plans were drawn up for the citizens who lived within 25 kilometers of the borders. So in case of war, all citizens, farmers, animals, had a plan for how to evacuate these areas. The term used then was Westbefestigung. It's not clear where the term Westwall actually came from, but it eventually turned into a line with over 22,000 bunkers, large forts, bunkers, pillboxes, dragon's teeth, tank obstacles, air observation towers, artillery positions, and a number of underground storage bunkers and tunnels. Constructed by Todt workers, regimented by Reich Arbeitsdienst and civilian firm contractors, and of course military engineers. Over 17.5 million tons of concrete was spent on the construction. Now Hitler wanted a line battle-worthy by October 1938, and Todt promised by streamlining the process to be able to construct 400 to 500 bunkers every week. Thus, corners needed to be cut, and the concepts of the standardized bunker concept, Regelbauten, came into being. With some 70 pre-designed bunker designs, now between the Army, who could call up 90,000 men, the Reich Arbeitsdienst could call on 340,000 more for the construction. Todt also used full use of the railways by using some 8,000 rail cars, barges, and many thousands of trucks. Todt managed to construct some 12,000 bunkers by October, with some 20 positions per kilometer of the heaviest defended lines, and slightly fewer in those sectors deemed to require less defense. And of course, the construction did not just stop then. The West Wall is longer than the Maginot Line, with its 22,000 bunkers, and in some places 30 kilometers of depth of defenses and double lines of defense as well. You have now mostly heard how weak the line was, as it was claimed by the Allies before the war. However, this is far from true. It took the Allied armies 6 months to successfully penetrate the line, at a cost of over 250,000 casualties. And if you line that up with the time it took the Germans to bypass or cross the Maginot Line forts in 1940, it should become clear how efficient this actually was. However, events moved far faster than the fortress technology. A war there in 1940 never came, and with Germany's unexpected defeat of France and Belgium in 1940, saw the line and its armament now far behind the possible lines of battle. And with the construction of the Atlantic Wall stretching from the coast of Norway down the coast of France, many of the weapons and armor was repurposed and placed in these. Todt utilizing the full learning from the construction of the West Wall for the Atlantic Wall, which now took shape, however slowly in some places. It was not until 1944 that 2 million Allied soldiers pressing towards the German border that the Siegfried Line again was rearmed and prepared for defense. One problem was that over the 4 years of war, the weapons had grown in size. Many of the weapons, specific fighting positions, could not simply fit the larger AT guns of 1944. But the German soldiers were placed in well-prepared, easily defended positions when the Americans arrived, and it was a bitter fight to make their way past the line. In the next episodes, I will take you through the battlefields and show you exactly. Many of the fighting bunkers blocks were destroyed during the fighting in 1944, as the Americans repeatedly would take these and lose them again to counterattacks. So rather than fighting for the same several times over, they were demolished as they were taken. Many more of these were later destroyed by the French and later by the Germans. But since 2008, the sites are largely come under historical protection, but sadly far too late to truly see and understand what was there. But let me show you what is still here to give you an idea of what was. An interesting note is that after the war, some of these forts were repurposed for the Allies, and the same construction firms who originally built many of them were again hired to refurbish them for the Cold War and for NATO use. These I will also show you. We are going to the Katzenkopf Bivouac. There were 32 bivouac forts constructed, almost exactly like what we've seen at the Ostwall. But here at Irel, 2 forts of these were constructed, Katzenkopf and Nimsberg, opposite, in order to secure the important road Luxembourg-Cologne. Both of these were demolished by the French in 1947 and covered up. But in 1974, a group of volunteer firefighters volunteered and began to uncover and restore one of the demolished forts, and they have done an amazing job given the damage, so far spending over 75,000 hours of volunteer work here. The Type B fort had 45 rooms in different sizes depending on function, quarters for 84 men to 90, guard rooms, gunnery rooms, first aid station, lavatories, ammunition supplies, cold store chambers, canteens, kitchen, as well as telephone controls and a radio station, and of course, all the fighting compartments and positions. There were more than 60 electronic motors for the ventilation system. The water pump, the heating, and lighting were supplied by electricity produced by 2 diesel engine generators. The fort itself and its surrounding area was defended by several firing positions, including 2 gun turrets with 6 firing holes for 2 MG-34s each, and a 500mm grenade thrower and a flamethrower. Having been so incredibly impressed by the Ostwall from my visits there, I didn't quite know what to expect here. So this is inside the washroom, one of the old bunkers. This was a bivouac of the West Wall. And this resembles the East Wall so much in design and layout, although the East Wall seemed to be, it started later. But you see, it clearly had the technology in place. And when it was blown up, you see here how the steel beams bent from the explosion. So it's only appropriate that there was actually a few American soldiers that helped them restore this when they started the process back in the 70s. All done by volunteers, of course. And you had the regular bathroom facilities in here. I'm on the second floor down, and remember, this entire upper floor was completely destroyed when the firefighters went to work restoring it. And what makes this so amazing is, during most renovations and restorations, it has a tendency of destroying the feel of the old bunker, the originality. This doesn't. And I was only just beginning to get impressed. Just wait and see what I found in the basement. I know it seems so trivial to film a simple bathroom, but how important is that? Battles have been lost because of bad sanitary conditions. And of course there's more remnants of the detonation that took place above us. I blew part of the wall out here and the floor. See how badly damaged some of this stuff is. But heavily reinforced it was. You would have been possibly safe down here. That might be a bit of a stretch. The wall come down, you got bigger problems. But this really should give you an idea of how thorough they were. This was not just a few bunkers here and there that was sitting in the basement or small pillboxes. This was a dedicated, serious defensive line with over 20,000 bunkers and forts. And they started constructing this way before Hitler ever came to power. I have been in for quite a while. Are the same as this in the east wall. That's the basement floor, munition room in here. Nice little displays of the munition spent. I said we should play a game of what caliber is this? Heavy steel doors into the munition, of course. Really see the destruction in here. See how the ceiling had come down. And in here was the doctor's office. This was and some of this was repaired, of course, to make the room intact. But you see how the slabs are just hanging by the rebar. Again, there's so many similarities between here and the east wall. It's actually really cool to see. It's just so sad it had to be blown up first. Interesting thing is there's the one across the road from here. But the German authorities will not allow him to turn it into a museum. So I'm actually really fortunate to be able to show you an intact West Wall bunker. and intact. Well, I mean, you see the shrapnel on the floor too. Came down from above with this blue. Staircase up. This is a fairly large bunker, it really is. 2 stories, emergency exits. Just like we would see in the west wall, the east wall. And right here is one of the emergency exits. Just, and the beds are in place just like they used them later in the war, or later in the construction that was done similarly. Had the ventilation there, hollow beds. I think we covered the emergency exit. Took a little bit of a hit too. And here's the filtration one. Well, some of the air filters still sitting here. And none of these are German, incidentally. Just like something something happened to this wall here too. There's the monument we see outside. Ventilation in every room. Lots of pipes, lots of rooms, lots of walkways. This was a real fort. This was not just a thing. This is not just a novelty. This was a real fighting department. They were really planning on doing something here. This was the machine room. Standing on the riggedest thing I've ever stood on in an official museum. I love it. Everything here was cut out. I like this place. I like these guys. I really do. In these large bivouacs, there was provisions and equipment for the fort to be able to fight for at least 30 days on their own if cut off. There are two types of bivouac, one closed and one dissolved. The closed bivouac combines all the weapons and functional rooms into one single bunker. The other, the dissolved bivouac, like here at Katzenkopf, there's at least one part that is separated and connected by an underground passage. The part that's usually separated and connected is an armored turret for the most part.
And then we have the room that is no more. I'm standing in mud. Oh, that's a shocker. They really see how, and we are 2 stories down. So they blew it really well. It was blown up by the French, surprisingly enough. But I guess they didn't want any more trouble. They must have used several independent charges. It's not just a regular square. This is the fix they did. This is actually the fix. You see how it covers the ventilation pipe there. They really did a good job doing this. This is a lot larger than I thought it was, honestly. This really is a real serious thing. I don't know why I never doubted that it was, but people, they keep thinking that the west wall was just something that really wasn't a serious defensive position. But it was very well thought out. And storage. You could recognize they are slightly different to design than we see. Normal door, regular height door, and then you have the smaller hatches. This is the kitchen. And into the next thing here, into the hallway. Wow, okay, now I'm impressed. I thought I was on this other. Holy crap on a stick. Seriously. I thought this was just a 2-story thing. Now there's another story down. Bloody hell. Now we're talking. This is a circular. This is a circular little tunnel down, just like we see on the west wall. You see these. You see these shafts. This is literally a shaft like we're used to seeing. This is an actual shaft, like we're used to seeing. This is how they did it. This is how they always did it. This I did not expect.
On the fourth, which is the deepest floor, there are 2 large galleries, totaling 138 meters of length. One leads to the water pump room that is installed above a deep well 180 meters down. The other leads to the remote gun turret.
I had no idea there was going to be an egg-shaped corridor down here. We all recognize the egg. Opening for the future side tunnel. This is the egg we see on the east wall. It's amazing. I had no idea there was this much underground. I thought there was a 2-story bunker, BVAC, command center. I had no idea there was this much of a significant underground. And there's another one on the other side of the valley that they can't get permission to turn into a museum as well. But we have to, I don't know how to fix that, but we'll try. There's a damn egg-shaped tunnel here. It straightens up a little bit. And there's a slight slope down, probably 3-4 degrees. And here's the close defensive position. The cabling on the wall, defensive position. You get into an L with a steel wall. And holy crap, there's just another staircase up. So, this was a serious thing. I am blown away. I had no idea this was this deep. And what did I do? We have an emergency exit. And maybe this was the cannon well. This is the dome up here. Look at this. I mean, obviously, we can't get into the turret, the dome, because it was demolished or blown up and then the middle was stolen. But this is the well for the dome. And we see the platforms up there, whatever's. But this is where one of the firing positions were. I'm going down to another emergency exit that actually looks like it has the original. Look at that. Here we have the stairs up in the fighting position. Floor of the dome. I'm going to go down here. What makes this interesting, I think, is the close protection. The close protection is facing inwards. This is where you would defend from. You see the dome through there. You see the egg. You see the egg coming down there. You see the whole tunnel hallway through this firing position. But what makes this interesting, this firing position, it wasn't that if the dome was taken, you could go inside the fort and defend there. This is not what this was. This is the inside of the fort. This was an anti-tank gun that was mounted up here. You would defend towards the inside of the fort. This also means that there was a tank dome further away from just those above. So this is literally a walkway out to one of the fighting positions. Just like the east wall, I really see the comparisons now. Now I'm really seeing what they were trying to do. They really were trying to fortify the lines on both sides of the 1938 German border against attacks from all sides. And the first visit Hitler did to either, he was not satisfied at all, and they had to up their work, and they did. Nice, just supply. I'm just trying to figure out where this goes. I'm imagining it goes to the next fighting position, of course. I mean, what else would I think it would do? Ooh, cool. Lots of nice munitions. So this would put a German soldier out here. Hey, close defense. They fought inside the tunnels and in the mud. So there's a dead end anyway. So they didn't have independent water supply. There was a ground well 120 meters down. And this was the pump room. I would be surprised if you could make this work today somehow. This big piece is missing, but and that's perfect because you have sanitary, you have your own water, you have fuel, food. For some interesting reason, there's a hoist. Behind the little soldier here, there's a wall. And they were planning to dig down and extend a tunnel underneath the valley outside, which is quite far below us. This would have been quite an achievement. It's interesting because this is bigger than the small tunnels on the east wall, but it is smaller than the big tunnels. You could run a mini rail down here if you had enough room to lay track or you had letting somebody go. But it's an interesting dimension because it's slightly different than what I've seen before. There are several of these openings, or preparations. I guess you could say this is a preparation for something you were going to do. It's not 30 meters, but it's really cool. See the separation? Just like the east wall. Just like we used to see in it in the collapse bunkers on the Ostwall. You see the old roof of the top floor, which is mostly destroyed. Few original walls, but they restored most of it, so you can at least get in. See on the top floor here. This looks like what I'm used to seeing, isn't it? And this is the other turret well. Yes. Of course they rebuilt it in here. And that's absolutely fine. They built it out in bricks. You have the interior of the bunker. And here is what remains of the other well to one of the other domes. Hadn't even noticed that. The beam that's exposed now. I'm guessing here's a wall. Obviously a lot of stuff came down. Or the beams came down and then were removed for the reconstruction. You can see parts of the roof. There are the beams there, but they're missing in where I'm standing. And we have the radio room, communication. I'm guessing the commander's office would be next to us here. And the roof looks very undisturbed. It looks in good shape in here. Communication hatch there. Definitely, yes. So, opening into the radio room, the command center. Doors are very low, just saying. I'll be surprised if not up here. They used to have been an observation door. Right next to the command center, and that makes perfect sense, of course. So you have the communication here. Look at this is where the roof came down. Very nice, new, clean.
The vertical tube of the flamethrower has a 120-liter pressure tank. The flamethrower can fire a jet lasting a maximum of 90 seconds of a distance of 40 to 50 meters, just like the Ostwall. It then takes 2 minutes for the pressure to build up and is refilled for the flamethrower to fire again. A memorial is placed on top of the Katzenkopf. It's dedicated to the 4,000 dead and missing soldiers of the 39th Fusilier Regiment from Düsseldorf. Across the valley is the other fort, Fort Nimsberg. They are practically identical, but this one cannot be accessed at this time, and its fate is uncertain. Some say it's being restored, and some that it will be covered up again. Its top floor was demolished significantly, but the underground remains intact, like here. There's always rumors that it was connected to a pre-existing mine shaft in the area. Hopefully one day we'll know more.
Here you have this poor town that was destroyed, and through here is the road into Cologne and Berlin. Right over here with the blue building, that is where you'd find the other identical bunker to this one. Here on top you see how this was demolished and the remembrance cross for those who fell. Very nice and tastefully done. Very tastefully and appropriately done.
Through my time and study of history, there's a few people I meet who truly deserves a medal for their endurance and their longevity and search of history. Marcus have been studying bunkers for his entire life. Grew up in the area of Aachen as a child, playing in the bunkers, just like I did, up on the West Wall. He has incredible insight in how and where all these were constructed. He's going to show us around to some of the more specific and specially designed forts and bunkers that is little known of the West Wall.
I am a private collector of military things. Normally I began with German military, then I changed to US military from Second World War, and in this region especially for female uniforms. I'm working here in this open air museum as a curator, so I'm responsible for the houses. The principle of an open air museum is to pull buildings down at their original place and rebuild them here. This is a special sort of building. It's an RAD baracke. Was used certainly for a barrack for plans or something else of the V-Waffen program, in this case for V1, I think, because inside the barrack there is an alarm system. The fence are saved by these iron things. I don't know the word in English now.
Bars. Bars.
Bars, yes. And you can see the alarm system on this place. Here you have a certain key to make it sharp, in German we say. And inside, when you open the door, this is coming out, and therefore an alarm was hearable.
It's an electrical activated alarm.
Yes.
Very standard. I mean, I've never seen that before.
Yes. It's not only at the door, but too at the windows. The windows, they are reconstructions. The window is reconstructed, but the frame is original. This barrack was bought in parts by a man who had a firm who built streets and buildings, and he wanted to use it as a office barracks, but this never came. And then we bought it and built it up here. Because we built it up, I have two reasons. Cons was one of the mostly fortificated areas of the Westwall, because you have here the entrance of the Moselle into Germany. Therefore it was saved by big shelters on both sides. And the other things is we want to take something about this V-Waffen program, because the last weapons V1, V2 were started in this region. Even the V3, this fleißige Lieschen or Hochdruckpumpe, was started near Cons at in the wood to Luxembourg. The system of these barracks was really developed by the Reichsarbeitsdienst, but it was used by every organization in the Third Reich. It was used by the Wehrmacht. It was used for concentration camps, for example. It was used by Organisation Todt. And they were used in different manners to different times, because here we have this special situation. We have highways. We have a highway from Koblenz to Trier, should go up to Luxembourg like today. This building, or this works on this highway, were cancelled at 1941. And then they took these barracks, pulled them down, and built them up on another place.
So literally everybody from the soldiers to the concentration camp inmates to the Air Force, everybody, they lived in basically the same type of barracks.
They lived in basically the same types of barracks. There are only small difference. When you have a late barrack, this, for example, is a very late thing. When you go here, you can see it on this side. This here is not metal, it's pressed wood, like toned furniture. This is metal because we had to reconstruct this. And they want to einsparen metal, and therefore they put this from wood with only a small nail of iron inside. And there you can see also the type of window, that it's a very late form of barrack, I think constructed 1943, 1944. This is to fix the door.
That's to fix the door.
It's a very simple principle. But you can see it's inside the plan too. When I bought this barrack, I found this between all these parts, and I don't know what it is. And therefore, in my private collection, I possess a plan. This plan was shown there. It's normally in my private collection. And then I saw this piece, and then I thought about what it can be, and then I placed it like this manner.
So these are these wonderful poles that every time I crawl through a fort somewhere,
Yes.
they're always sitting outside, stuck in the ground.
The expression in German is Hindernisplattenpfahl, because they have a plate and you had to dig up a hole, place this plate inside, fill it up with earth, and then it was impossible to put it outside, to draw it out. They were used as fence. You can see it here, these holes here, and this one, and this one are not original. I've bought them in the Saarland at Mettlach for the museum here, and they were used after the war as a normal fence. But the interesting thing, they had also damages by war. This is from bullets, and this one. Sometimes you can find it like here, you can see here's a little bit rest of green and yellow. They were also camouflaged.
And this is the original barbed wire, isn't it?
This is original barbed
Yes, it
wire
is.
from Ostwall.
After the lesson concluded, it's time to go back out in the nature and take a look at some of the bunkers outside Konz.
It was a sanitary shelter. It was a little bit from the front. You see the Moselle at least about 2 kilometers, and in the back area they had sanitary shelters to treat casualties from
So
soldiers.
Sanitäten.
Yes, Sanitäts. Also ein
First aid bunker.
Yes, first aid bunker. This is the outlet for a stove to heat the shelter.
So we're on the roof.
We're on the roof now.
The roof seems to be sloping. The roof seemed to have a problem. Oh, this was actually quite. Oh, this was quite big. Quite thick. This is the roof right here, right?
Yes.
So that's what, 3 meters?
No, 2 meters.
2 meters.
2 meters
And change. And it's still a little green. Still a little green on it. Yes, this is how I spend most of my life not at work. I'm standing underneath enormous pieces of steel with rebar. And this is rebar reinforced classical German bunker build.
yes. But normally this side of the ceiling was made like this one with this like this here to prevent when the shelter was bombed by artillery or by aeroplanes that are broken things of concrete fell down in the shelter.
Yeah.
But after the war they searched everything what to have metal.
Yeah.
They picked up the doors, they picked up the inside, they picked up the beds. And here, for example, these are places. Here was wood inside.
Yep.
and to fix these beds.
Was this one store or two? Was there only one floor here, or was this two floors?
Rooms?
No, Etagen.
Only one store.
Only one store.
This is the ventilation tube, the rest there
Yep.
and here.
Yeah.
There.
Yes, where my grandfather after the war, or my uncle.
Be cautious of these things.
I know. In Blokhus, where my family built the summer house after the war, there was some of the big bunkers there. They couldn't blow them, not even with water and dynamite. So they built a restaurant on top of one of them, and an ice cream shop inside the other one. Pot here, somebody was cooking. Yes. Well, it has the east wall green. Standard green paint.
I think the standard
Yeah.
color.
So was there camouflage netting over these?
They used camouflage nettings. There were hooks on the roof. You can hook this netting inside, but sometimes the shelters itself were camouflaged with a certain thing of like timberage. I can say it on the tanks. Something
Ooh.
else similar to it. It was made from certain thing of cement and wood. But I can show it to you.
Yes,
Wood
yes.
rests.
All the time in the world. It's funny, see, I've seen a lot of the Ostwall bunkers, and yeah, this is what they look like, so many of them, when they was demolished. It's a strange hobby, isn't it? We spend our lives crawling around under dangling pieces of cement. Oh, there's the air ventilation. There's the out.
Yes, this is the outlet. This is a very big one.
Yeah. Yes, this used to be the outer wall.
You can see the tube running there, and there you can see the rest
Yeah.
of the tube.
Was this that's the outside. If that's the outside, and here's a corner. Is this also outside, or is this in? This must be inside. Huh.
And normally it looks like that this here is a door for the outside of the shelter.
Yeah. It could also be an inner door with an outer door here. But then again,
Possible,
we'll see when we find the drawing.
but it's very thick for an outside door,
It is.
inside door.
See, this is where, if everybody was interested in history before they blew it up, at least they would take a whole bunch of pictures. They probably didn't. Yeah, this must.
And this plies. He was a certain kind of winkle iron.
Yeah.
The other thing, the correspondent thing is here.
So this actually, do you think, is shifted
This is shifted,
sideways?
I think.
Yeah. Explosives will move things in strange directions, and it kind of makes it hard to see where it was sometimes. big pipes there. Again for ventilation.
Here is also ventilation. Here you can see that the people after the war had taken this for metal.
It's little things you find hiding around the countryside that most people today probably wouldn't recognize for what they are. The enemy would come from this direction? From that direction. So that is the little village.
From here.
So the last tank obstacle. It will swing from here over onto that road sign that he is currently dismantling, and from the right would be the direction of the enemy. So they would have a steel gate go over.
Yes, here was like a screw was fixed here with a bolt, and then you close it.
I mean, this street sign looks like it's been here ever since.
Now, if you begin to multiply what we've seen today by tens of thousands, you'll get an idea of exactly what the Allies were up against in 1944. The next episode, we're going to take you to one of the biggest forts that was built for the West Wall.
Took a little dent to the metal.
We're going to go roam the battlefields, forests, and the woods to show you exactly where the fighting took place.
Few iconic weapons from World War II.
Behind me is Vanna von Braun's first test stand. Down the road is Dietmar's nuclear reactor. Over there is the Maginot Line and all its amazing forts. I'm visiting them all and I'm bringing them to you. So I really appreciate you like, follow, and share what I'm doing, trying to document all these important historical locations. And if you feel like you want to watch more pictures or documents that I use for these, go to lostbattlefields.com. And if you feel like helping me out with my travels, because gasoline and travel and airfare is expensive, my PayPal is there, protectionserviceint.com. You are more than welcome, but you don't have to. I appreciate all your support and all your help, and I love seeing these locations, and I love bringing them to you.